So, a recent article came out talking from the mayor of Chicago. She was exclaiming that Trump should never send those federal troops down here and make a problem worse. We know our community better than he does. But she was also asked, "What's the problem? Why are you having so many shootings? What the hell's going on?" Well, she blamed other states for her problems. She said all the other states and their lax gun laws around our states are just funneling these illegal guns and assault weapons into our streets. Right. So a felon who can't buy a gun anywhere in the country goes to another state to buy a gun and then comes back to Chicago and just shoots people up. And this was just after somebody at a funeral of a victim of gun violence, no less, was shot up. The funeral was shot up. What the fuck is wrong with Chicago? I mean, that is a place I will never go because what the fuck? That place is mental. All I hear is about is gun violence, 67 dead over the weekend. A bunch of people on 4th of July killed each other. It's like, what the? I think this is like certain areas that are doing this, but I sure as fuck ain't going anywhere near that city. But here's the paradox. This is the thing I love. I know everybody else knows this, but I'd still like to point out the irony anyways, because I think it just needs to be said over and over again. That the gun laws only hurt people that follow them. So here's the mindset, and I wish people would understand this. A criminal is a criminal because they break a law. I hope you follow that chain of thought. A criminal equals a person, they're equal, right? That breaks a law. You know, the house, the triangle, the eyeball, the all-seeing eye. Yeah. A criminal doesn't care about the laws. So when she goes off and has these strict gun control laws, that's fine. That's not going to stop criminals from getting a gun. Hence why they have all this gun violence. However, now if all states had a similar heavy restrictions ban, they were somehow able to go door to door and confiscate weapons, so everybody's left with a handgun. Well, handguns are the most used in violence. They're easily concealable. They're easily carried around. You don't know what's going to happen until it comes out of somebody's pocket. Because the damn thing is about like this big. Small handguns, about this big. They fit in about, that's it. Right here, right here. Mine comes out about right here. Yeah. This is a bigger handgun. This is a smaller one. The small ones are easily filled and concealed in somebody's pocket. So all you're doing is hurting people. Now, I can't help but notice a correlation here, and maybe it's just an observation. Maybe I'm a pattern-seeking individual that sees this kind of stuff. But when they started naming places as no-gun zones, shootings in those zones went up. I remember it was just after high school. There was a no-gun zone declared at all malls. No mall was allowed to have guns in its facility. Shortly thereafter, a guy walked through Trolley Square Mall. This is a mall that's two-story. It's kind of a square, basically. It's got some really cool shops in it. Old spaghetti factories in there, and I know people that work there. It was really cool, at least at the time. I used to work there, in fact, many, many, many moons ago during high school. Not at that one, but at a different one, thankfully. But this guy walked in and just started shooting people in a no-gun zone. Guess what stopped him? Somebody else with a gun. But they didn't have it on them. It was a cop. Oh, wait. That don't make sense. It was a cop that shot him. Let's just put it that way. But cops are stationed near there because the police, I guess Salt Lake City Police Headquarters is just like 4 blocks away from there. It's really close. SWAT team is like really next to there. But anyways, All the school shootings, there are no gun zones. So no one's there allowed to have a gun. There's a police stationed at every school now. Because teachers can't arm themselves. Students go in there and shoot people. I think there's a compounded problem here. Civil unrest, abuse of kids, dumbing down of social behaviors meant to quell anger, anxiety, and all those other things. And the willingness for people to kneecap honest individuals in favor of those that really just don't give a shit. They don't. Not a single one of them gives a shit about the laws, or else they wouldn't be criminals in the fucking first place. They wouldn't go around shooting up buildings if they were law-abiding citizens, now would they? No, they wouldn't. So the gun law paradox is something I find entertaining because paradoxically, supposedly, it would work in all intents and purposes. But only if first responders were quick to respond, were not castrated by mobs because somebody just did something wrong and now the mob gets after them and says they're a victim of police brutality or whatever, and go ape shit over somebody committing a crime. You know, there's a paradox here. You don't want cops and you don't want guns. Or do you just want the guns and the people that you don't care to have guns? Criminals, for example. The only people you're arming with this paradox in the current climate is criminals. Now, if we had a perfect society, gun laws and restrictions would work, but then also gun manufacturers would not exist because no one would need a gun at that point. Guess what they'd turn to? Trucks of peace and knives. See, the people seem to think that all this social engineering, social programming shit's going to work. It doesn't. It absolutely does not work. Just like the unconscious bias training they force everyone to fucking take does not work. It makes things worse, in fact, because now you're pointing out shit that they never thought of in the first place. And now you're making their assumptions, like that person's not cute, therefore I better treat them extra nice and be all creepy and shit. That's going to work all of a sudden. No, it doesn't. Off on a tangent, but mind you that the only thing that would work in that place is if people were indeed programmable and you programmed violence, anger, and aggression out of people. And don't give me that toxic masculinity shit either. That myth has been, I can't say it's been debunked millions of times. Let's just say that it was never the fucking theory in the first place. It was based on a dumbass that couldn't get prison inmates to talk to him because he was a yuppie, stuck-up bastard. Prison inmates talk to other prison inmates because they know what their life is like. They don't want to talk to a Harvard grad because you haven't lived in the shit that they have. They know the difference. It has nothing to do with toxic masculinity. It has nothing to do with anything else. You would have to quell aggression. You'd have to do it chemically. Do you really want that? That reminds me of a few other weird sci-fi episodes where people were controlled through drugs. Hell, even South Park did it when they did that episode where what the guy from freaking Genesis, I can't think of his name, but he won another Grammy, and it was actually with that stupid ass song from Tarzan, and it was in real life they were competing against South Park in one of their songs, and they won because South Park no one likes over there in Hollywood. So they made an episode about him winning the Grammy, and the only reason anybody would ever listen to their shit is if they're on Ritalin. So they had to do Riddle out. Anyways, long story short, they had to castrate everybody, and at the same time, I liked the color blue, and they were all high and shit, and they liked his music, and no one felt aggression, and no one felt anything. Quite literally, because that stuff kills your emotions. That's the only way you'd be able to get this society where you'd have gun control to the finest and people would stop killing themselves. Right now, the laws, the way they are and the way we know behavior, all you're doing is enabling criminals. Why those that are law-abiding citizens get screwed for two reasons. One, they can't defend themselves. And two, everybody's protesting law enforcement. So who the fuck wants to defend anybody anymore anyways? You've destroyed pretty much the only way out. Unfortunately, people need to learn to defend themselves, period. If somebody has a gun, you're pretty much screwed. The only way you're going to get out of that is run. The further you get away, the harder it is somebody to shoot you with a handgun. But they can chase you. But at any rate, I don't pretend to have a perfect solution, but I know that medical treatments and lowering aggression and all this behavioral shit that they're trying to throw down kids' throats these days to basically make them weak as fuck does not work. It does not work. No gun zones, perfect targets. So stop doing that. What you should be doing is making the assumption, or at least enforcing, maybe do the opposite. Every person needs to go through firearms training, and every person needs to have at least a handgun and or shotgun in their house at all times. Everyone is armed. There'd be a bloodbath a few times over, but people would wise up real quick that you start some shit, you're going to lose your life. Is it worth it? It'd be chaotic in the beginning, for sure. But, you know, that's just one solution. It'd be ugly. It would not be fun. It would just not be fun. But what else can you do? I mean, the alternative is you make a city full of victims like Chicago, where everybody dies from gun violence by criminals that don't give a shit about the law. Thus, the paradox will continue. Now, that all being said, I do have one last thing to add. Common sense gun control. I agree with it. The common sense gun control is we need a national registry of all domestic violence on up, everyone, and put them all in a list. And every time they're convicted, they automatically get updated in this national registry for criminals. Then they can't buy any legally. Because there has been loopholes where that has happened, where somebody has a felon in one state, they go to a different state. Oh, they're not on the registry for felony in that state because they use a different system. A single system, because this is something that's supposed to be controlled by the government. And since the government is fucking inefficient as all hell, they need to get their shit together in a few things. This would be one of them. Now, if they had a national gun registration, not national gun registration, what I'm trying to say. You already have your serial numbers and all that are licensed and registered to you anyways. What I'm trying to say is a criminal background check would be universal. Unfortunately, the way the things are right now, they don't have that. So that would be a good start. Across the state, single software, made by the government, unfortunately, so it'd probably suck, and maintained by them too. But then they would have to report all of these crimes and criminals to a national registry. Problem solved, man. Everybody that's a criminal can no longer buy a gun. But then, how are you going to kill the black market? That's the next step. How are you going to stop a criminal from breaking into somebody's house and stealing a gun? Because that's what happens. Hell, you know the two guys in a truck that chased the other guy down and then they fought over the shotgun and the guy died because he fought another guy for a shotgun and as he was running away from them. That same day, I believe, or the day previous, the guy that chased him down had his handgun stolen from his car. Now, if you ask me, that's really fucking irresponsible to leave a gun in the goddamn car like that. Are you fucking retarded? Lock and secure your fire. These are weapons, you dumb sons of bitch. You don't just leave weapons lying around. Even swords have sheaths for a reason. Put the shit away. Just profoundly stupid, I think. But anyways, what's going to prevent a criminal from breaking into somebody's house and stealing their weapons? And who is ultimately responsible for that? If your gun is stolen and somebody uses it in a crime, I think you should be held liable too, for criminal negligence at very least. Then you lose your gun rights because you're obviously fucking irresponsible. Seems fair, right? Actions have consequences. All do. So why not that? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, subscribe, pass this around, and all that fun stuff, because I've been trying to grow this for years, and YouTube sucks ass. See you next time.
That's very interesting. You've done well. You've got the right technique.